And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Fontana, California for the third round of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. Well, it'll be Blake McCandless alongside Justin Prince. And before we get too many pleasantries exchanged, we got a race to go ahead and fire off. They are already on the grid. So let's go ahead and get ready for you the starting lineup for tonight's events. It'll be Dave Walsh. It says Osen on your screen, but it'll be David Walsh that lines up from the top spot on row number one, almost a good 10th in front of the outside of row number one. That is Omar Diallo. He'll roll off from second position. Third goes to Donovan Strauss. Fourth will be Jordy Lopez Jr. Horizon Racing's own Seth the Merchant will roll off from the fifth position. Sixth goes to Brian Mercurio. He is filling in tonight for Kyle Riley in that 62 machine. Seventh to Will Norton. Eighth, Tyler Gary. Ninth is Jordan Worth. And Aaron Mulrooney Jr. rounds out the top 10.
Next, the Esports driver Timo Toika starts in 11th. Will Rogers is in the field tonight, starting in 12th. He'll drive the 005 machine this evening. Matthews Wax starts in 13th. Jacob Fisher in 14th. Dalton Cowden starts in 15th position alongside Sean Butler. Ryan Williams starts alongside Cosmin Ineshu in 18th position. Corder trying to carry some momentum from past weeks in 19th. Nathan Rabideau rounds out your 28 cars up front.
Quarter's certainly going to be doing that as he is the points leader heading into tonight, as we'll let the screen show you the rest of the starting grid as we continue to roll along here. There were 67 drivers that attempted in last chance qualifying to get into this field, and even AJ Henderson, who was third in the points coming into tonight, failed to qualify through. So that will obviously be a big hit for the Controller King. It was much different territory last week. New Smyrna Speedway, 18 cautions for a total of 89 laps. They'll see if they can clean it up here at Auto Club tonight. And already Dave Walsh not going to waste any time as he's going to put us under the green flag. 100 laps set for you here tonight as Walsh gets away by about a car length or two. Already side by side behind him, Donovan Strauss, the JDR Graphics Ford Mustang, looking to the inside in the first set of corners.
And this is a track where long run pace is going to be very vital, but track position is also very important. So expect some drivers to fight fairly aggressively in the first lap or two to be able to try and get single file and sort it out. Once they get sorted though, Blake, expect drivers to get into a rhythm to make sure they don't torch the right front tires.
That is going to be the case, as you see already throughout most of the field, single file, albeit this battle nearly contact made between Seth the Merchant. They just announced that new deal with Logitech. You could see the cars for both Jordy Lopez and the Merchant as they were going side by side right there. They go fourth and fifth as they now settle things. A little further back, though, is Aaron Mulrooney. He's making a move to the inside of Tyler Gary, trying to make that outside working right along that seam as they have completed about a lap and a half in the Epic Gaming Network 200.
And you talk about that deal with Logitech G Altus Esports, known as a road course racing team, Blake, that competes at the World Championship level. A big acquisition by their organization to acquire the talent from Horizon Racing Team and join together for an oval program. So it's going to be interesting how those cars do tonight and how they do in Road to Pro this year, especially with bigger backing and more pressure on those competitors this season.
Well, you move, talking about those guys, you move a little bit further back. Space Station Gaming, I'm sure you've heard their name quite often in this new running, or new season, rather, of oval racing here on iRacing. A pair of them, Will Rogers and Jacob Fisher, knocking on the door of the top 10 as they're looking to try and get around directly in front of them. It's that battle we were talking about. Aaron Mulrooney Jr. now moving to the inside of Jordan Worth, sporting Davies Doobies. Have you considered it on that Toyota Supra? But right now, that 92 dropping like a rock there on the high side.
A nice throwback tonight to Stacey Compton and his respective cars from back in the day in the 92 machine. But Jordan Worth, keep in mind, a very strong oval racer, especially at these bigger tracks. He knows how to save tires. The tricky thing that's been, though, keeping track position. And he's struggled to keep the bottom of the racetrack. And every time he's got into rhythm, the tough part has been everyone else has had momentum behind him. And that's why he's being so aggressive, having to block to just try and get himself a chance to be able to conserve those tires.
That is certainly the case, as we have already rolled off about 4 laps, but battle for the race lead. Donovan Strauss, power move to the inside in turn number 4 is going to get him the lead easily. He'll clear. Remember, Donovan Strauss, he competed in the Pro Series race. Yes, now rebranded as eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Contender Series, as it's named now. But Strauss was a competitor in that field. It was in this car at this racetrack, and right now Donovan Strauss putting that experience to good use. He takes the top spot for the moment.
Now keep in mind with this track tonight, it is a very hot surface. Despite being February 21st in Sim Day 2021, it's just past 2 p.m., so these drivers are dealing with a very slick surface. There's also a fair bit of marble still across the track, especially in the upper grooves. Not expecting wind to be a factor for today, but these track conditions are going to mean these drivers are going to be slipping and sliding a little bit around this surface, which could burn around these tires. That's going to be critical, and that's why I think some drivers are already backing up their corners a little bit to make sure they can serve those tires, as we talked about.
Yeah, it is very important. I mean, we had the air conditioning broke up here in the booth. We had to open the windows. 93 degrees out here. It is smoldering here in Fontana, California. It's going to make for really slick conditions for these drivers. Although a 107-degree track temp, I got to say, for the temperature, you'd think that the track would be much hotter than it is right now, but I'm sure that'll continue to pick up as we go along here through this race. And as you said, wind is variant, but not too much to speak of right now, just 1 mile per hour to the east. And then, of course, not too humid out here in Fontana. Only 49% humidity as we look. Side-by-side battle once again, just outside the top 10. Jordan Worth trying to get in that top 10, and he's going to be able to do so. He puts the 94 of Jacob Fisher behind him.
And just like that, I talked about this. It's important to be able to get yourself single file to set up passes. It can take a few laps to be able to do so, but when you get to that preferred line, you're able to make moves such as this. How about a two-piece down on the bottom side for Butler trying to attempt it? Nearly got himself on the apron, which you can utilize a little bit here at this racetrack in 3 and 4 if you hit the apron right, as seen in real life. It's more tricky in the sim, and that lost a bit of momentum as a result for Butler.
It did. Sean Butler, you'll hear him in the booth tomorrow night when we continue coverage of the FTF Cup Series over on Bottom Split. It was not a good running for the 32 Pennzoil Ford last week in New Smyrna. It seems every time we were checking in on how Sean M. Butler was doing, it was not going his way, as right now he's trying to hang on just outside the top 10. He's competing in this series for points, trying to obviously do all he can, being up in the broadcast booth on Sundays. It gives him an opportunity to compete in this series, the Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals, second iteration that it is running on iRacing. But right now, Butler slowly marching his way forward, starting back in 16th. He's made up a couple of spots running in 13th.
How about the driver that's up in 6th position, though? Will Rogers, with his railroad experience, of course. We talked about Space Station Gaming and Space Station Racing. Rogers +6. He's one of the quickest cars on the racetrack. In fact, he's quicker than Donovan Strauss by a couple of hundredths a lap at the moment. So doing a nice, solid job on just picking off these cars one by one, trying to attack Will Norton now to make it a +7.
Trying to move forward. As with anybody else, again, you talk about tire saving. We mentioned it a couple of times tonight. It's so important, but take a look here. Will Rogers, he has made easy work as he has worked his way now nearly into the top 5. He's trying to get around Will Norton directly in front of him, and getting a nice speed view right here. You see the RPMs in these cars running just below 7,000 through the corners, trying to get that run off. But again, the one thing about these Xfinity cars, Justin, you see the small spoiler on them. The draft definitely matters, but as you can see, as we took a ride along with Will Rogers right there, you're not making up a ton of time riding in the line. It's there, but it's not going to be enough to move you forward.
Yeah, it helps you a little tiny bit on the straightaways, but it's more so with the dirty air in the corners that becomes a factor as well. That's more the concern in this type of a drafting train. Now, the tough part's going to be just trying to break out of that air and just get enough of a run to cut to the bottom for moves like this. If you're able to get yourself to the quarter panel with the car in front of you by the corner entry, you're likely going to be able to make the pass here at Auto Club Speedway. You see that right there with Will Rogers got to the quarter panel, was able to get underneath Norden and force Norden up the racetrack for turn 3. So it's more so, I think, the concern of how much the dirty air is going to be a factor in the corners than there is the big drafting effect down the straightaways.
That air is going to play a factor for sure with how these drivers are all kind of working. You have to kind of run the same groove here. You can see kind of going from just above that first seam on corner entry all the way down to the white line through the center and off corner exit. That is going to be where or the preferred line is here at Auto Club, and many of these drivers are going to ride in that. Obviously, having that clean air going to be a bit of an advantage, as you see Donovan Strauss right now still in control of the race lead. Lap number 13 of 100 about to go on the board as Strauss sports about a car length advantage, maybe 2 over Omar Diallo in second. But I tell you what, Jordy Lopez and Seth DeMerchant, 2 teammates, but they are veterans of this sim. They've been around a long time, very competitive in their own right. I think they're just biding their time right now behind that Monster Energy Toyota.
I think so too, and that's just the rhythm of this racetrack, as a couple drivers having some trouble down the back straightaway. Ryan Williams and Caden Rush as the caution flag is out.
And that is what it is for. Caden Rush looks like he was wrapped up in this, but this started a couple of rows in front of him as the caution flag is going to wave for the first time this evening on lap 13. But again, I think this was a case, I think it was Ryan Williams and believe Timu Toika, as we'll have to take a look here at the bar visuals replay. And I think that's certainly the case. Ryan Williams, who was awfully competitive all the way back at the World Center of Racing Daytona to roll off the season, he and Timu make contact here. You'll see it on your screen here as they work in the middle of turns 1 and 2.
A little bit too hot into the corner for Williams. Slides up the racetrack as Timo Toika is trying to diamond it a little bit into the corner. Took a little bit of a wider arc. That opened up the door for this opportunity, and these cars just slide their way down the apron. Then you have Caden Rush and the check-up effect. Just slammed to the outside wall. Significant damage for the 121.
Yeah, he really had nowhere to go. He gets, again, in that stack up, he gets hit from behind. I believe that was the 117 of Dalton Cowden, sporting the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim paint scheme is Cowden in his Chevrolet. But you see the checkup, and I just don't think Cowden could see it before he gets into the back of the 121. And here at Auto Club, very aero-sensitive track, so this is not going to be a fun afternoon for Caden Rush to try to continue on in this race. So they'll work it under caution flag. Already going to see drivers working their way down pit road. No surprises here to see pretty much the entire field, aside from Seth DeMerchant and Jake Poulin, make their way down pit road.
4 sets of tires available in the pits for tonight, and the fuel window expect to be around 40 to 45 laps. Some drivers may try stretch it to 50, but the reason so many drivers came down to the pit lane here and took the tires is the fall off here can be massive. There's already about a second plus minimum for some of these competitors. As well, though, it makes it a one-stopper essentially to the end for them on gas. Interesting call, though, for DeMerchant and Poulin to stay out here.
Well, I do remember back a couple of months ago, we were watching this race in the Pro Series at this track, and DeMerchant was pretty aggressive in terms of strategy in that race as well. So it is carried on over here a couple of months later to the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. Now, there is something we're excited to tell you about here, and what the administration is telling these drivers, and specifically for this racetrack, is that we will have a choose cone in this race. The way that it's going to work is obviously there is a blue cone that is out here on the racetrack. It is pretty high up compared to most tracks in this sim. So the drivers, when they get the one to go, there you see the blue cone right there on your screen. Great shot there by our producer, Zach Johnson. Everybody's going to ride on the apron with the one to go. You either choose to go below that cone if you want to be on the inside, or obviously you can choose to go to the outside if you want to go around that cone. If you hit the cone, well, you're given an in the longest line penalty. If you change your lanes after you pass the cone, so if you go high and you end up getting in the low lane, that'll also warrant you a black flag as well. So the lights will go off on the pace car, and we're going to see everybody in single file here. And Justin, with how dominant the bottom is here, I really love that they're able to incorporate this choose cone here. They're going to have to do a lot of clearing, a lot of black flags for this administration, but I can't wait to see the type of racing it produces, because again, the bottom is so dominant here, and these guys are rolling through at full speed. It's going to be interesting to see how this works.
And it's going to be interesting which drivers elect to take a risk and say, you know what, I want to try this high line, gain as many positions as I can if it allows me to. But it looks like it's almost an even split, and somebody just hit the cone.
Oh, somebody did indeed hit that cone. We'll have to roll back and see who it is. Whoever it was, they get an end of longest line penalty. Let's see who it was here on this replay. We'll continue to work it forward. I believe it may have been Tristan Hagenstein that ended up nixing up. Yep, nose of his Mustang, Tristan Hagenstein of the 27 machine. That was who hit it. So he'll be assessed an end of longest line penalty. The rest of the field will catch up here and get ready to go. As you said, mostly an even split throughout this field. I thought we'd see some drivers take a risk to try and work their way forward from the back of the field. But here we go. Seth the Merchant, old tires. We'll see how long he and Jake Poulin can hang on as we're back under green. The Merchant and now Donovan Strauss and Jordy Lopez able to clear behind him, but the Merchant is just going to be a sitting duck on those old tires.
Yeah, already being eaten up in terms of speed by at least a few miles an hour on corner exit here. Already, Jordy Lopez among the drivers getting some draft as well. Just nice and simple to the bottom side and already given space. It's a major strategy gamble here where they're hoping for the caution flag, I think. But it's the matter of, will we get one? This is a track that's known for its long green flag runs on iRacing.
Especially in a field of this caliber, you have to imagine the odds are pretty good that we'll have some long green flag runs. It's going to be, I think that we're obviously not on pace to match what we had last week in New Smyrna. 18 caution flags for 89 laps in that race. So we are well past what that race was, as the field continues to work around the Merchant, not fading near as quickly as I thought he would. He's still holding on here in the third position. Will Rogers is going to make a move under him, so Will Rogers continuing his vicious march to the front of the field. But otherwise, they are back in the pack side by side behind them. Even Will Norton now in a side-by-side battle with Omar Diallo as they work around the Merchant.
Continue to just drop on back. Williams, for reference sake, is already dropped back towards the middle of the pack. But one of the drivers already making a move on Seth the Merchant. How about Brian Mercurio from Lowline Racing in substitution duty for tonight, Blake, the super sub?
Mercurio, another pro driver that took place in the action back a couple of months ago at this racetrack, and a long-time veteran of FTF is behind them. They are nearly fanning out 3 wide, entering turns 3. How about Tyler Gary shoving his nose to the bottom of Aaron Mulrooney Jr. as Mulrooney tried to throw the block all the way down to the apron. Gary able to make it work as they continue to work here down the front straightaway. A brilliant move by Tyler Gary, who just was not going to take that block, but they got 2x2 in front of him as well. You got the Merchant on the high side. He's now put 3 wide, is now Butler and Diallo able to make their way by.
Yeah, and DeMerchant at this point is just alone for the ride and hoping that this call works out and gets a caution, say, in about 7 laps or so, where some drivers may elect to stay out of that point. Right now, though, he's just got to be patient and just be careful. Don't make any sudden movements. Just be predictable and just let the drivers on by and be calm in your movements here. It's frustrating, yes, but this is the strategy gamble he took here.
It's the gamble he took, but the one thing about this is obviously you see he's still hanging on and around the 15th position. And again, they had about 14, 15 green flag laps on those tires. So it's good news for the Merchant. He's not falling back nearly as fast as I thought he would. The bad news is, though, obviously if we get a caution now, he elects to take the tires. I don't think those fresh tires are going to make as much of a difference as we were anticipating. So for the Merchant, it's going to kind of work both ways, as it is still 3 wide all around DeMerchant, working to the bottom. Jack Painter, Matt Spalding now trying to make their way by. Here comes Evan Brinker, and of course the series champion of the Grand National Series last season, Derek Justice, also making his way by. He elected not to take a time in qualifying, started all the way back in the 35th position. Now he's in 22nd as he nearly got into Brinker there as they squeezed together entering turn one.
I don't think he realized that they were still 3 wide a little bit there at the very edge of the quarter panel and fenders for DeMerchant. But for Derek Justice, he's someone that likes to take a challenge and is someone that thrives on long runs. When it comes to his iRacing career, he can really surprise many people by being one of the few people at these types of tracks to be able to just cut through the field and just save conservatively on the tires. It's how he did and competed well in the Road to Pro Series. It's how well he did in the Pro Series. Curious how he does it in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
We'll see how he can do that. Of course, the next round of that taking place Tuesday night at Homestead Miami Speedway should be a fun one to watch as we get round number 2 underway. There's a couple of drivers with Derek Justice that did not elect to take a qualifying time, who are kind of working through the field with him. We saw Spencer Preet. He's actually further ahead of Justice right now. He runs in 17th, but we ought to see Evan Brinker. He didn't put a time down in qualifying. We see Michael Frisch, or actually Frisch did elect to take a time. He just started all the way back in 30th. Ryan Naraki, David Schildhouse, another couple of drivers that did not take a time. But of course, many of those drivers, Justin, they're not competing for points in this series. There's obviously a limit, 15 races that FTF Cup Series drivers are limited to running in this series. So obviously they're going to take the time to try and run tracks that I think they want to get some laps on, because of course for the Cup Series race tomorrow, we will be back here at Auto Club, but we will be running in the car of tomorrow. So it's going to be much different. But I assume many of those Cup drivers just trying to get some extra track time here at this Speedway.
Seat time is seat time, but it's going to be a fun race, I think, with those cars to see who's going to be able to handle the tire wear and the speeds being carried there, especially with the downforce. It's going to be a very interesting race, let's put it that way, to see which drivers are able to conquer those respective cars, because some drivers don't have the experience with the cars that many of the iRacing veterans do from the heyday, in the early days, rather, of the service. So a lot has changed over time, but keep in mind these cars for the car tomorrow is essentially from what it was from back when it last ran in the Cup Series.
And again, many of these drivers, they got a little taste of it running at the Daytona International Speedway in the Car Anomaly 500 preliminary rounds. They got at least some laps behind the wheel of a car that is not often used in iRacing anymore, but of course is remembered for how difficult it is to drive, the amount of horsepower that is in that machine. But right now, we look out front, top 3 under a blanket right now. Donovan Strauss, Jordy Lopez, and my goodness, Will Rogers just looks to be so fast in that Ford Mustang. A lot of power under the hood of that machine as he tries to work on Jordy Lopez for the moment. Almost gets into the back of him. Lopez filling in for his teammate and Michael Cozy Jr. in the owner's points, trying to keep that 99 up front. But Rogers stalking all over the back of Jordy Lopez, trying to do his job to chase down Donovan Strauss for the race lead.
And I think Rogers is quicker than both him and Donovan Strauss at this point. It's just a matter of getting a proper run to make the pass. That's why I think he's trying to arc it so much, is we've seen it before when he passed Will Norton. Get to the inside of the car in front for the back straightaway, take the inside in turn 3. Most of the time you're able to make the move. It's going to take some time though to properly set it up. You can't just dive it on in and force it on in, otherwise you have the situation like we've seen with the first caution flag. So he needs to be patient in his movements for this type of pass.
Patience will definitely be a virtue as we have worked past the quarter-wave mark here in this race. Working lap number 28 right now. It is Donovan Strauss up front, your race leader. Jordy Lopez in second. Will Rogers in third. David Walsh runs in fourth. Fifth goes to Brian Mercurio. Jacob Fisher in sixth. Will Norton runs in the seventh position. Eighth is Jordan Worth. Sean Butler has worked his way up into ninth. And Tyler Gary right now rounds out your top 10. But it is that midfield battle that is taking taking place right behind the top 10. A lot of action going on, really centered around Derek Justice. He's trying to make his way by Spencer Preet right now, able to poke his nose to the inside and work his way around the 127. So Justice also on the march through this field.
As talked about, some drivers just like the challenge, right? But look at this. Lopez really does not want to give up second here, blocking Will Rogers all the way to the grass down the front straightaway.
Lopez taking no chances as he cuts out the apron. Rogers had a bit of a run off of turn 4. You can just see how well Rogers' machine cuts through center off, gets a little bit of a run here, stalls out here in the draft. And Strauss, with this battle going on, able to pull away by about a car length or so. Right now, Lopez, he's just able to get in even ahead of Strauss and Rogers, just able to dive it in that little bit more. Rogers up the racetrack, though, nearly gets into the wall as he follows Lopez up there. He's going to have to check up a little bit. And I'm wondering if Rogers here, he's made some gains through this field so quickly, Justin. I just don't know if those tires are really going to be on that race car here when we get to a couple of laps. We had about a 14-lap run that first go-around, and Rogers was able to make some hay up, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to sustain that pace much longer as the tires continue to wear out.
Yeah, that's going to be a good question to see if he's going to be able to keep it held on, because Rogers, I've noticed, before the past couple laps was sending it a little bit deeper into the corner and trying to take a bit more of a wider arc. And sometimes when you do that, where you say go quickly on the brakes or jab at the brakes, Blake, it either makes the splitter go too hard down and cost you some speed in the middle of the apex, or you heat up your tires by pressing the brakes too hard and having a lot of modulation on the brakes. There's a chance that that's starting to come into play now, where he has that extra bit of heat being sent in from hitting the brakes harder to stop it at the same speed as everyone else while trying to gain some time, and that in turn may have started to cook that right front.
It may have done that for Will Rogers, as he now lays about a car length further back than he was a lap ago. But Jordy Lopez has started to get ever so closer there to Donovan Strauss, running him down the front straightaway, as Lopez has made about a 0.3 of a second gap back to Will Rogers. Have to believe that Lopez, he's looking strong right now, may have an opportunity to go after this race lead here in a lap or two.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this 99 machine's been having a very strong start to the season in owner's points. 65 points scored in the opening race at Daytona. Then, of course, Cozy Jr. scored the victory at a track he didn't have much knowledge about last week, Blake. So, overall, the Moonsport with V2RT team owner's points for the 99 looking very strong so far for 2021 so far this season.
He is. Cozy was able to emerge from all the chaos last week at New Smyrna to take the victory, and at least for now is definitely looking good for the owners' points. That Horizon team looking to try and chase down that owners and team championship right now. But right behind them, long line of cars behind David Walsh right now, Will Norton, Brian Mercurio, Jacob Fisher, all looking to pounce on that 37 machine. Here comes Will Norton. He's got a little bit of a run as they enter turn 3, and there is a long train of cars looking to get around this 37. It may be pretty difficult to get back down.
Yeah, Walsh just is going to have to let by some of these cars here, or at least find a hole here. If he keeps on fighting aggressively here, it's going to end up burning up his equipment even more so. You don't want to stay out of the groove or even in the middle line for too long here. Otherwise, it ends up hurting your tires, where you only have about a lap or two to cool them back down. Otherwise, you lose them potentially for the run. Fisher, though, nearly actually got into his fender, sliding up on the bumps in the seam.
Yeah, Fisher definitely did get loose. That's going to stack them up behind them. Is now Butler looking to the inside. Oh, man, he cut a break there to Jordan Worth as they entered turn 3. Butler really wanted to press the issue there. Walsh going to try to get down in front of the 32. He's able to successfully do so as Walsh goes from 6th back to 8th in just a couple of laps. He loses spots to Mercurio, Jacob Fisher, Jordan Worth that last time by. Walsh trying to find a way around Worth, but I just think the tires looks like they may have faded on that 37 machine. Butler is going to try to join the others, make their way by Walsh's. Now Walsh, he gets into that apron. That's going to get the 32 that run off the corner.
Yeah, just to the inside right now of Walsh. Right now, Walsh, I think, needs a caution flag. His tires have definitely fallen off a cliff here by about a half a tenth to a tenth. And the second you lose that bottom, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Finally, I think he's found a hole, but the damage has been done. It's going to be really tricky to be able to try and get the tires cooled back down here for the closing half of this run. Already 21 laps on these tires.
20 laps rolling along here on these tires. So definitely these drivers starting to fight those conditions and even a track that it is climbing in temperature. It is higher than the last time we checked it, 108 compared to 107. But the more they run on it, that will continue to climb here. But while you're watching here on STN, we'd like to remind you that the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, except it's on Friday nights, actually. It's not even on Saturdays, is going to be going here starting February 26th, this upcoming Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to get things kicked off at the iRacing Super Speedway. You can catch all the action exclusively right here on STN, and that is going to be a lot of fun. Running these Super Speedways, you know, FTF, a lot of these guys ran in Super Speedway leagues back in the NR 2003 days. Don't have as many fantasy tracks to run here on iRacing, but you do get one in iRacing Super Speedway, as well as Daytona and Talladega to run on as well. So that's going to be pretty fun to join in. You won't want to miss the action, see some of your favorite FTF stars run on the plate tracks and try to duke it out here. Again, that gets started next Friday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern here on STN. And this battle continues to commence right in front of Walsh. Obviously, Butler able to make his way by, but they are still nose to tail. Really, Mercurio, Worth, and Sean Butler all running with each other right now.
Yeah, they've all stayed grouped together, and it's essentially, again, back to that rhythm discussion we talked about a bit, where all these drivers are in the same flow, the same rhythm, just about the same lap times at the moment on average. It's just the matter, again, of keeping with these groupings and just waiting for somebody to slip up and make a mistake. So far, right now, none of these drivers have really made these mistakes, if anything. Butler, +8. Mercurio, where he started after struggling early on in the run. Fisher, +9. These are drivers that have either gained positions or stayed right in the thick of things and within range of the main pack. The race lead, though, is getting close. Lopez now side-by-side on the outside on Donnie Strauss.
Trying to make it work on the outside, but what he's going to do, he's going to try to cut down and get a huge run off the corner. We'll see if he's able to do it, as maybe that right front tire is starting to fade for the JDR graphics machine. Here comes Lopez, a little bit quicker here down the back straightaway, looking to the inside, and he is there. The Logitech Chevrolet going to the bottom. Will Strauss put up a fight? It looks like he's going to be able to do it easy. Jordy Lopez, new race leader, as we come around to start lap number 40. The 99 Chevrolet is once again out front here at FTF.
I don't think it's over quite yet, though. Donovan Strauss is still fairly quick and trying to get a run. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries an air move.
Strauss looked to make that move, but he thought better of it, as Jordy Lopez may look to get to work and try to extend his lead, not only over Strauss, who just looks very loose here. Now Strauss going to get a little bit of that dirty air, may start affecting the handling of that race car. But of course, you got the battle behind them. Will Rogers trying to hang on to the third position over Will Norton for the time being. Will Norton going to take a page out of the book of Jordy Lopez and do the exact same thing. He's going to go for the crossover here out of turn 4, and that may very well work, as now they go side by side for the race lead once again, and now Lopez shuts the door on Strauss.
Still side by side up towards the front, though, too. You can see both of these groupings of cars trying similar different moves. Donovan Strauss, though, just able to get enough of a run to take away that preferred groove, but Lopez has that opportunity 1 and 2 more so to be able to squeeze. It's difficult to defend, though, here at this track.
It is difficult. We've seen them exchange the race lead a couple of times now, as Donovan Strauss goes to the inside of Lopez. Lopez going to give it back to him and think you'd have to see what we saw from Strauss that last lap. Strauss to the apron. He gets that car a little bit loose. Lopez with the run. He had to check up not to get in the back of Strauss, but once again, side by side for the lead. They've sorted things out for third, and this is exactly what Will Norton wants to see out his front windshield. These two continuing to duke it out for the race lead, allowing him to make up a ton of ground as they work it into the first set of corners.
And when you go side by side like this, it can cost you up to 4/10 a lap. 44-1s for the drivers behind last time by, 44-5s for the drivers up at the very lead. So if this continues, Will Norton can make this a 3-car fight and quickly, and might be able to try and capitalize on whoever falls to second here in a moment, since he's just been able to run single file, where these drivers have just been heating up their tires, going back and forth, crossing each other over.
Another crossover here where Lopez tried to throw the block. I think he thought about it, but Strauss had a nose there, so they'll exchange once again. Really got to give a shout out to the admins here who decided to make the track this hot. I think that's contributing to the wonderful racing conditions that we're seeing out here on this racetrack. Is once again Lopez backs up the corner to the back of Strauss, gives him a bump as Strauss got a little bit loose, and before we can even mention it, here comes Will Norton. He's become part of this battle for the race lead.
And Norton's going to have to be smart here. There's going to be another attempt coming up, it looks like, from Lopez off the corner. If I'm Norton, I try and follow the run wherever it comes from if it works out to the bottom side.
We'll see if he gets a run. He does get a good exit. So does Jordy Lopez running down Donovan Strauss. As Strauss goes to the apron, he's going to take that low line away from Lopez. Norton looked to go perhaps 3 wide for just a moment, but here comes Will Norton. He's got a nose under Lopez. Lopez will squeeze him out. Norton on the brakes. Lopez is sideways. They are about nose to tail, touching off the corner. This is incredible racing. Here comes Will Norton to the inside.
And a good move by Norton. Lopez now trying to let him on go and realizes, okay, now I've got to let Norton try and burn up the tires for Strauss, because I think Lopez is starting to really burn up his equipment by doing so. But look at this. Jacob Fisher and Brian Mercurio, along with Jordan Worth and Sean Butler, are right there as well. It's now turned from a 2-car fight and potentially to up to a 6 to 7-car fight.
Strauss and Lopez really did themselves no favors, and boy, does Will Norton's machine cut through on entry so well. As they exit off the corner, he's leaving Lopez in the dust by about a car length and a half, and now Norton has his chance to try and go after the race lead. There is lap traffic in front of them. It's Andy Margot who's in the middle of turn 4 right now, so they'll approach that in a couple of laps. But man, cannot look away for this battle for the race lead, as we'll come across this time complete lap number 45, as we are just 5 shy of the halfway marker in this race. It is Strauss, it is Norton, it is still Jordy Lopez, your top 3.
And this fight, I don't think, is anywhere close to over with how this is faring out. I think Norton is just trying to set it up, wait for an opportunity to be able to build up a run off the corner. Just has to make sure he doesn't clip the apron, because I think both him and Donovan Strauss both edge the very side of the apron, Blake, and that's why both of them just slid up and nearly smacked the wall.
And while this is going on, obviously Norton trying his best to chase down. Here comes Brian Mercurio behind them, looking for 4th, and he's brought a couple people along with him. Jordan Worth is on the march. Sean Butler, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack that last lap around. So there is going to be a very healthy battle for this race lead. Mercurio trying to complete the move there on Jacob Fisher. He's able to get the inside line to work for him. But again, this battling up front has allowed several drivers to get into the marching up here to the front, as Jordan Worth, Sean Butler almost get into each other behind them. There's just battling going on everywhere.
Keep in mind, Derek Justice is the quickest car on the racetrack, too. He's up to 11th position, so he's within this train. The tough part is he's 2 seconds back. So there's a chance, if cautions start flying, that some drivers can get in the conversation. If not, though, it's going to take all race for someone, say, like Justice to get up there, as the friends now go back and forth for position.
They go back and forth, but meanwhile, up front for the race lead, Norton looked low. Strauss threw the block all the way down to the infield grass here at the Auto Club Speedway. Now Norton, Strauss is loose up front, trying to dump all that air on his spoiler, just not able to get the run off. I have to believe right now Norton is the fastest car, but he just cannot find a way around Strauss. Strauss blocked down low, and we'll see it once again, I'm sure, off a turn 4. Norton with the big run through the center of the corner cannot keep the throttle down. Strauss able to still hold this race lead.
And that's the tough part. The longer the run goes, the harder it is to pass, even when you've got fresher tires or quicker cars in scenarios such as this one. Hence why I think Norton's had so long to try and fight this along. At this point, though, the best thing is to try different lines here. Try and get an arc off the corner. Try and get to the inside line and make a move. Otherwise, it's going to become a lock, staying back and forth, bumper to bumper, like we've seen the past few laps for Norton. He's trying it a bit more flatter now, while Strauss is trying to give a bit of a wider arc to get that run off the corner.
Yeah, Norton's just able to cut through to the center, but he's just not able to keep the throttle down. Meanwhile, Strauss running a little defensive, trying to get a really good run off the corner, keep him in his rearview mirror. Jordi Lopez, mind you, though, he has not gone away. He has caught up to these race leaders and just sitting back here, really just minding his P's and Q's right now, not doing a whole lot back there. But when we thought that he got passed for the race lead and he was going to fade back, he is kept really steady with these race leaders, as Norton was just mere inches off the wall. But he's got a big run now. Will Norton to the inside in 3.
Just not close enough, though, to be able to properly send it on the brakes. And now it's going to take about a lap or two for him to renegotiate this move because of how long it can take to set things up. Just couldn't get to the inside. That was his best opportunity for the past few laps as we reach halfway.
We've reached halfway this time by, and it has been a wonderful show that these guys in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals have put on. Donovan Strauss, your race leader. Will Norton second. Jordi Lopez is in third. Brian Mercurio looking to become part of this battle for the race lead. He runs in the 4th position. 5th goes to Jacob Fisher. 6th is Jordan Worth. 7th goes to David Walsh. 8th is Omar Diallo. 9th goes to Sean Butler. And Justin Prince, Derek Justice knocking on the door. He's already reached the top 10.
Like I said, one of the quickest cars, if not the quickest car on the racetrack right now. And the tough part's going to be, though, for him to get back up to the full race lead. He's lost some time trying to get by Sean Butler as well as Aaron Maroney Jr. by 3 to 4 tenths. I think, though, by the time we get towards the pit stop sequence, things could get interesting on strategy since we are approaching the mark to make it on fuel. A change for second, however, Lopez Jr. and Will Norton have swapped positions.
They've made that change as Mercurio trying to make a move as well, but we'll continue to run through this field. Aaron Mulrooney Jr. is in 11th. One of the fastest cars on the racetrack these last couple of laps has been Michael Frisch. He runs in the 12th position. 13th to Tyler Gary. 14th is Will Rogers. He's fallen back significantly since he was up there battling for the top 5. 15th to Spencer Preet. 16th is the points leader coming into tonight, Ethan Corder. 17th is Evan Brinker. 18th goes to Matthew Zwack. David Schildhouse started all the way back in 38th. He's worked his way up to the 19th position, and 20th goes to Cosman Ianashu.
Brandon Hawkins in 21st spot, Spalding in 22nd, Timo Toika all the way back 23rd, McAdams, Rabideau, Schwartz, and Painter, the top 27. 28th is Nate Stewart, JD Willis, a very quiet night in 29th, and a plus 11 for Lucas Postrel. He's up in 30th position in the 45.
Evan Rice runs in 31st. 32nd goes to Ryan Naraki. Tyler Duggan's in 33rd. 34th to Gary Waterworth. 35th is Tristan Hagenstein after that end of longest line penalty. Matt Horton runs in 36th. 37th to Jeremy Clapper and scored 1 lap down. He is on fresh tires right now, so he is just bonsaiing through this field. Seth the Merchant, he is a lap down. He's elected to come down pit road just about 7 laps ago. Justin Malillo did so as well. He runs in 39th and 40th 40th goes to Dalton Cowden. 41st is Andy Margot. 42nd is Jake Poulin, who has not come down pit road, or actually he just came off pit road 3 laps ago. Ryan Williams in 43rd, and then 44th, Caden Rush. He is out after that accident. So 44 drivers all chasing Donovan Strauss right now, who runs at the front of this field, trying his best to hold off a charge from Jordy Lopez with green flag pit stops just around the corner.
Should expect to see them starting in about 5 to 6 laps or so, but look at this run from Lopez with the draft.
Jordy Lopez to the bottom of the racetrack, and he has a huge run, but Strauss going to dime in that corner, work his way down. He gets a little loose, though. They're going to be dead even as they work down the back straightaway, but that draft starting to work for Donovan Strauss. Brian Mercurio getting to the back of him. He's going to have a bit of a push there into 3, but here comes Jordy Lopez. He's able to clear Strauss. Strauss will go for the crossover off the corner.
Here comes Mercurio, though, and Mercurio hasn't had to work as hard as these two, and he's been strong on the long run all night long. I think Mercurio has a good chance to be able to quickly pass these drivers if he times it right. He just needs to make the right move with these drivers blocking so aggressively to keep that clean air in the race lead.
And Mercurio has to mind himself. He's also got Will Norton right on his trunk lid as Strauss gets loose off the corner. Here comes Mercurio. Strauss tried to throw the block for the moment, but just too much speed in that Bar Visuals machine. Brian Mercurio trying to wheel that machine for Kyle Riley tonight. He's doing a good job of it. And Strauss, he's not only going to lose 3rd, he's going to fall back to 4th as well. So Strauss back 2 positions in just a set of corners. But Brian Mercurio now, he sets his sights on Jordy Lopez.
Now it's the question of how quickly does Mercurio get the move done on Lopez Jr. with the clean air, and keep in mind behind them as well, drivers like Worf, like Fisher, and several others are trying to sort themselves out. And don't forget, Derek Justice is there. He closed up 8/10 in the span of about 5 laps.
Yeah, Justice is on the march right now, but he is in severe traffic as they're going to look 3 wide here directly in front of him. Jordan Worth, Jacob Fisher, and Omar Diallo, as Omar will clip the apron. That'll slow him up just a little bit, but Jacob Fisher trying to hold on to 5th. Heat slides off the corner. Jordan Worth, that 92 Davies Doobies machine, trying to get it done on the high side. And man, this racing's just been incredible tonight.
It absolutely has, and keep in mind, they have a driver on fresh tires mixed in here, just 10 laps old now for Seth DeMerchant. Remember, he was one of the drivers who stayed out, and he's going to be in a tough strategy situation where he's going to be tight on fuel to make it to the end. He might be in a 2-stopper to the end here. Actually, I think he tapped the wall trying to pass these cars.
He did. That is not going to help you. Everybody knows in these Xfinity cars, you do not want to scrape the wall. As here comes Derek Justice to the bottom. Contact made nearly with Omar Diallo as Derek Justice, a big, meaty move there through 3 and 4. It's not going to work out for him. He loses that momentum off the corner. He gets a push from Walsh. It keeps Worth on the high side, but Justice, an aggressive move, entered really low, but it looks like Omar Diallo able to fend him off for now.
That's one of the positives when it comes to Justice. He knows how to balance the aggressive moves and his cautiousness when he needs to save tires. And that's what makes him so dangerous when it comes to official racing in particular. There's a reason he's made the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and that's one of them, especially with his long-time experience. Worth, though, you can also put in that category. I think Worth is being very cautious here with some of the drivers on fresh tires now working their way on the high side to some of these competitors.
Yeah, Justin Malillo, he's one of those drivers that also came down pit road about 12 laps ago, and you can see the large difference it makes for him. The UFI machine getting by the slower traffic here on the high side as Diallo, oh my goodness, he nearly gets into Justin Malillo there as they enter the corner. Malillo going to clear them easily. But this is going to be interesting to see where this cycles out. We see Malillo, we see DeMerchant, who have very quickly made work of this pack. They're obviously making up a ton of time right now on these guys that's still yet to come down pit road. So they may even have a little bit of a lead once this cycles out, but just as quickly as they'll have that lead, they'll likely fade as DeMerchant about to unlap himself as he goes under Brian Mercurio, and I imagine in 1 and 2 he'll be able to work by Jordy Lopez as well.
Yeah, and if I'm curious, I'm licking my chops thinking if he times this up right, can make this easy. The thing is, teamwork power coming in and taking the high side instead, the slower way around, as some of the drivers in the mid-pack are coming in. Keep in mind, Kevin McAdams, Andrew Schwartz just both came in this time by for their scheduled pit stops. They can make it to the end, remember, on fuel from here, and they have plenty of tire sets to spare. At least 3 tire sets in the pits for a majority of the field after the stop.
And most of the field going to be pretty good to go on tires. McAdams is on pit road. Andrew Schwartz, Jeremy Clapper has just made his way down pit road. And we start to see several cars that are running up here in the top 10. Jordan Worth, Sean Butler, Aaron Mulrooney Jr. They'll also make the slow trek to 55 miles per hour here at the Auto Club Speedway. Imagine 4 tires full, 2 cans of Sunoco racing fuel going to be the call for many of these teams.
Yeah, and they can go only a couple more laps at the very most. Most of these drivers that are staying out on fuel. And keep in mind the fall off, it's been immense today. Again here, Blake, almost 2 seconds full. 44 threes for the main drivers up at the front of the field. And it looks like they are going to go another lap here, be able to try and stretch it out. Some of the other drivers, though, like Donovan Strauss going for the undercut.
Donovan Strauss, he'll try to make his way down pit road. And largely, you see this a lot, especially in iRacing, kind of a cat and mouse game. You really almost like to stay out as long as possible. That really seems to be the case in the sim. The sim does not like being undercut on tire strategy for whatever reason. We just don't know. But it just seems, if anything, these Xfinity cars may be a little easier without so much draft in these cars. But it seems like it's usually you want to stay out as long as possible, because you got to imagine you just always like to have those fresh tires chasing that guy down directly in front of you. We'll see this time Lopez still going to stay out on the racetrack. A couple more going to make their way down pit road as we continue to cycle things through. Another couple new drivers making their way onto pit road. Let's see here. Derek Justice has made his stop.
Taking a look, though, from Jordan Worth, and boy, oh boy, that paint scheme is in for a wild ride. I'm not talking about because of the hair scheme, or the hair cut. Right now, he's going to have to cut through the field calmly and the right moves and times, because you do this at the wrong time. This is where many of the caution flags end up coming out at tracks like this, is drivers misanticipating the speed and trying to come in. For Worth, though, he's got some space. Many of the main leaders continue to stretch it on, trying to go 50-plus laps on the tank of fuel.
That is certainly a good point there, Justin. And again, if a caution comes out now, everybody that came down pit road, they would be in a terrible position. But right now, the race leaders have made their way down. Jordi Lopez, Brian Mercurio, Will Norton, Omar Diallo, Jacob Fisher, David Walsh. Just pretty much the entire front part of the field has made their way onto pit road.
And some very close pit boxes as well. Near contact actually coming to the pit lane. Going to be a very close race off the pit lane. In fact, I think they're going to be bumper to bumper possibly, as long as they get a good launch out of the pit boxes here for their service.
That's going to be the case if they can get off of pit road well. We see Osen Walsh. He kind of has that first pit stall. Not the greatest move here under caution, but it looks like Jordi Lopez able to enter pit road, at least with his group, as he leaves it, the race leader. But you'll see, obviously, going to lose a couple of spots here to some drivers that pit a couple of laps ago as we see how this cycles out. Donovan Strauss, when things kind of calm down, it looks like Donovan Strauss is going to be scored as your race leader. Right now, the lone car that has yet to make his way down to pit road, but he does so this time around. Timu Toika has finally made his way down pit road. So believe that's right. Donovan Strauss going to be your race leader as he now works past Timu on pit road. You see directly behind him Jordan Worth, Sean Butler, and of course it looks like Jordi Lopez, he's going to cycle out to about the 8th running position.
And now it gets intriguing to see how things have fared out. Now it's going to be where the different tire strategies are going to come in for some of these drivers, but as well, how well are some of these competitors going to be able to cut their way through traffic is going to be the big telling sign, because there is a couple tenths of a difference between some of these tires on speed on the short run. Eventually, they're going to equalize out, and that's going to be the big kicker of how difficult is it going to be for some of these drivers once the tires equalize for them to maintain or gain time.
Definitely the evening out. We did see it on that last run, although there was still kind of a progressive fall off. There wasn't really one point where everybody just kind of settled in around the same lap times. You were running about 44 seconds. If I'm looking at Jordi Lopez's last run here, gets down to about the 44-second range, about 13 or so laps or 23 laps into the run. And then past that, obviously, depending on the tire heat, that's kind of where it comes into play. So you're exactly right. Just whether it eventually cycles out in his favor. For now, he's the better part of about 0.3 of a second quicker than our race leader. So I have to imagine if he keeps that advantage up, he's going to make up ground very, very quickly. But when that levels off, can those drivers hold on when that tire heat kind of settles out? We see right here Derek Justice making his way by Aaron Mulrooney Jr. The Baskin-Robbins machine has about 2 lap fresher tires right there than Mulrooney, so he's going to try to make that work on the bottom side of the racetrack.
And I think Justice is one of the biggest positives when it comes to the pit stop sequence, because he didn't really even lose time in that sequence. If anything, he continues to gain time. With each car he passes, once he gets clear, he closes up even more than he was behind before by about 1/10 or so per car he reels in. So Derek Justice might be able to get himself into the fight for the race lead with something like 10 laps to go at this rate. He just needs to get by the cars a bit more quicker here to properly get himself some time to be able to make a move. Keep in mind the positives of the strategy. How about Jordan Worth and Sean Butler second and third at the moment in front of these guys?
They have definitely made up some ground during the course of this green flag pit cycle. Jordan Worth, he obviously runs second right now to Donovan Strauss, and Sean Butler behind him in third. But Strauss came in a lap later than Worth and Butler. They're pretty much running identical lap times, all 42.8s for all 3 drivers. Now, the problem is Jordi Lopez behind them. He has 2 lap fresher tires than any of them, and he is still cooking them about 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else. So how quickly he can get through this traffic is going to play a factor, whether Butler, whether Jordan Worth kind of hold him up as he tries to march to the front of this field, heat up his tires. That may kind of negate his advantage when he catches them.
And you can see the difference just off that corner alone, how much rotation off Lopez Jr. has better than Butler with the fresher tires by just that little bit. Just the rear tires just have much more grip to be able to rotate around, and you can tell Butler is struggling now with his tires all of a sudden. And that's even with the difference factored in. So Lopez Jr., I think, going to have a nice, easy job to get by at least a couple of these drivers. The question's going to be with Donovan Strauss, with how Donovan's been all night.
That is going to be the question here. Is Jordi Lopez able to make quick work of Sean Butler? Again, Butler running for points in this series. I believe Jordan Worth is as well. Obviously, with his duties broadcasting bottom split for the FTF Cup series that will be taking place tomorrow night. I believe Worth may be collecting points, just will not be competing on a full-time basis. But Butler, when you think about having to make up ground, he is well in front of many drivers who are making their starts throughout the FTF GNS season right now. Ethan Corder right now, he is the points leader coming into tonight. He is all the way back in the 24th position. Jake Poulin, he's also running tonight, second in the points, 35th on the scoring pylon. AJ Henderson failed to qualify. Kyle Riley not in this race. So when you talk about full-time drivers, Butler, who did not have a week to write home about last week, running up here in the top 5, he's making up a nice chunk of points here in this race early in the season.
I remember the effort he put in after the Daytona race in particular, where he tried as hard as he could, went through the sliding through the grass several times. this is going to be a definite confidence booster to be able to run up the front here and be in contention potentially for this race. I think he's in line for a possible top 10 at the rate he's going. He just needs to be able to hold on. The tough part's going to be, though, for one, what's going to happen with Lopez Jr. when he gets up to Strauss? And two, what's going to happen when Justice gets up to both of them? Because Justice, he's almost up to Butler, and he's almost up to Worth as well.
And Derek Justice has done a good job running down these drivers. I'll tell you another name that we haven't talked about, but he is right on the heels of Derek Justice. That is Michael Frisch, who kind of employed the same strategies with Justice. Started all the way back in 30th, has very methodically worked his way to the front of the field. If you know Michael Frisch at all, he's the FTF Daytona 500 winner, won the First in Flight 400 last summer. He is very inept at winning some big events and methodically working his way through, saving his tires. So no shocker here to see Frisch having another quiet day, but has been pretty eventful as he's made up nearly 25 spots under this green flag run. As you see Derek Justice there, he was able to make his way by Sean Butler.
Yeah, to get back to the conversation with Frisch, it just seems that he always waits towards the back, waits for an opportunity to pounce. And when that opportunity arises, he's usually able to break through, whether it's with some luck or whether it's based on skill in some of these big races. And it's amazing some of the work he's been able to do across the service in some of these victories, and it's why he's on the radar of so many drivers this year across the iRacing service. But with 25 laps to go, get your popcorn out, because Lopez is within 3/10 of Strauss and closing in with the draft, and the top two have broken away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, Lopez has started to make up some ground here, but that advantage that we talked about, 0.3 of a second better to Strauss, it is now down to about 2. So that advantage for Jordi Lopez slowly starting to slip away. We'll see if he can keep up with it as Lopez works into 3 and 4 here, starting to catch the dirty air and also the draft from Donovan Strauss. Lopez still cuts through the corner, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough. We saw how hard these two drivers were willing to battle each other earlier in the race. Don't think that is going to let up a bit as you see behind them side by side. Justice now going for 3rd, and of course even behind him, Michael Frisch working his way into the top 5.
Just the difference the tires coming into play. Absolutely. Want to give a shout out, though, to some of the biggest movers overall. How about plus 21 for Spencer Preet as well, on top of Frisch and Justice's plus 20 pluses. Evan Brinker quietly is up to 13th position as well, plus 11 in this race. And so several different drivers having some stellar runs. And don't forget about the super sub, Brian Mercurio, who's had experience for substituting for Will Rogers before in previous series, substituting as well, talked about for Riley. He's now in the hunt for a top 5 tonight in the 62.
And mind you, he is on the exact same tire sequence as Jordi Lopez. He came down on lap 64, so Mercurio will sport about 3 laps better tires than Jordan Worth, who's directly in front of him, and he even has a leg up on Derek Justice right now. But there you can see the battle for the race lead down to less than half of a car length right now as Strauss trying to hang on. Jordi Lopez cutting through the corner. Strauss nearly clipping the apron off, but here comes the run from the 99. He's just got too much for Strauss right now, but it looks like Strauss going to go down to the bottom to block it.
Don't know if he's quite close enough yet to make the move. He's going to need, I think, another lap or so to get it done properly. As long as he can get the proper arc, I think he's going to be able to get this done. They do have some traffic ahead, keep in mind, though.
And Tristan Hagenstein, remember, he took an in of longest line penalty after hitting the blue cone on the only choose cone restart that we have seen in FTF history and in this race. Only one caution flag has slowed us down up to this point. And Lopez backed off a lot in 1 and 2, tried to get that run, and basically the apron cut out his run. He backed off so much, got such a good run. You just cut down too early, hit the apron, and now he'll try to make it up on the straightaway here. But again, I just think it's only a matter of time here before Lopez goes for it. He's going to try it here in 1, a big sin to the bottom in 1, and he may make contact, but Strauss pinches him off.
Oh, that was close. That was close. But he does have the preferred line in 3. The question is, will Strauss try and cross him back up?
What will Strauss do? Again, that was a late and surprising move from Lopez. I think that's what he was going for, was kind of the surprise factor. And oh, he is able to clear Strauss off the corner. Does Strauss try the crossover? They make contact. Strauss looking to the inside. Lopez trying to throw the block. He's going to be able to clear himself down, move Jordy Lopez to the top spot, but Strauss will not go away.
And this is not even done yet. Look at that cut to the inside for Strauss to be able to get underneath Lopez's wider arc.
Lopez high off the corner. This is slowing them both down, but Strauss trying to hold off Jordy Lopez with all his might. Strauss going to put a big send here to the bottom of 3 and 4. They're going to go in side by side. Once again, they're losing time. Derek Justice, you can see behind, running them down bit by bit off the corner. Strauss able to keep up on the bottom.
Yeah, but those tires are starting to go off a touch bit right now. Just couldn't get the grip to get it even at the start and finish line, despite the preferred line. But look at Justice. The more they run side by side, the more he can close. And this time, Strauss with a later arc pushed Lopez up the track to gain both of them. Some time now towards Justice. A 10th lost, rather, to Justice.
Now Lopez, being the veteran he is, backing off, letting the young gun run out front, see if he can set up another move on Strauss. He didn't want to lose all that time. I think he knows that Justice is back there. He is making up time. The more these guys continue to duke and battle it out, we'll see if Lopez can get a run off here. He has a little bit of a run off the corner, and like you mentioned earlier, lap traffic about a second and a half in front of these leaders. Strauss goes to the bottom of the block. Here comes Lopez once again. He has the nose under Strauss. They're working in a 1 and 2 side by side.
This has been an impressive battle and some great work by both of these drivers. Strauss giving a bit more of a squeeze compared to Lopez so far amongst these competitors. Justice, though, is now within 6/10. Is now for the side draft. This time is Lopez to the quarter panel.
Oh, they nearly touched doors on the straightaway as Lopez to the bottom of the track. Strauss will give it up to him, but we'll look for the crossover once again from the JDR Graphics Ford Mustang off the corner. Give advantage to the 30 on speed, but obviously Jordy Lopez in the 99 goes to the bottom to block, but here comes Strauss. Oh, he looks low. He'll fake high, and now, oh, they make contact. Strauss up the track. Jordy Lopez into the 5th lane. Here comes Derek Justice. Justice to the race lead as Strauss and Lopez make contact.
Very aggressive moves there from both of those drivers and how hard they were fighting for this race lead. But my goodness, Derek Justice just able to capitalize, and now he's got the better tires, I think, out of these drivers, as we've seen in the better long run paces. The question now of how will the draft factor in? I think both cars are okay. No significant damage on Lopez. It's Strauss, though, with some left front damage that may affect him now down the straights.
Now, Strauss may have a little bit of damage here, but we just have to talk about the drive from Derek Justice. Started all the way back in 35th position. We had that caution on lap 15. We restarted. Derek Justice on that restart rolled off from 20th position. Or actually, no, he was even further back. My replay doesn't even go that far back. So he was back there in about 25th or so, drove all the way through this field under green, and now has the tires, has the track position, and all he really has to worry about is Brian Mercurio, who is on the same tire sequence as him. And that last time by, it's not over yet. Brian Mercurio faster than the race leader in Derek Justice.
Yeah, Mercurio, again, has done an impressive job here, but with under 15 laps to go now, it's going to be intriguing. And I think right now Donovan Strauss is letting cars go with the damage. He's letting Will Norton go. So Strauss starting to let drivers go with his situation. He's going to need a caution to get the damage repaired.
Strauss is going to just have to do his best to hang on. I don't think he'll come down pit road and lose all those spots, but for now, it is definitely something that is affecting the aerodynamics of that race car. So Strauss going to have to hold on with all his might, but in front of him, here comes Brian Mercurio. He ran down Derek Justice once again. They work it into 1 and 2. Mercurio to the bottom of Jordy Lopez. We'll see the fight that the 99 puts up, but that 62 car, again, much fresher tires on that machine. Lopez will keep them side by side. That'll slow up the run for Mercurio, but I believe it will not be enough this time. Mercurio with the preferred line into 3 and 4. Move the 62 out front, and if he can hang on to it off the corner, it is going to be a 2-horse race between Derek Justice and Brian Mercurio.
Yeah, but the question mark's going to be, can Mercurio actually get up there? Because Justice has a bit of clean air. The tough part is going to be, though, all these drivers now have a lot of lap traffic to get through. They have Margot, they have Hagenstein, they have Poole, and they have Nawrocki and several others that are all going to feed dirty air now to Justice. That's actually going to hold up Justice a little bit on this corner exit.
Yeah, Justice is going to get held up there. Andy Margot kind of ruined his exit, but now Brian Mercurio, he has to look and see where is Margot going to go here in the 3 and 4. Margot will go high, and it looks like Mercurio not going to be slowed up by that lap traffic. You see Margot into the dirt, trying to give these guys and these leaders all the room they can to try and settle this thing out amongst themselves. But Mercurio now has to get past Tristan Hagenstein directly in front of him. Derek Justice got by the 27 relatively clean. Mercurio going to try to do the same. Again, Mercurio still hanging steady, about half a second back, but don't look too quickly. Here comes Will Norton, who has chased down these race leaders as well. That last time by, he was about 1/10.5 quicker than Derek Justice.
Yeah, I was able to draft a bit off the 62, and I think right now Hagenstein might be a bit of a factor for potential draft to try and get up to Justice. The problem is going to be when they try and make the pass to get by the lap traffic here. See, right here is where it's going to really hurt him on the corner exit a little bit. Be able to suck up a little bit for the draft, though, to be able to equalize it out. And now that draft is within 4/10.
It gets closer and closer for these drivers. The dirty air works against them. The draft works for them, as we are now almost at 10 laps to go. Next time by, Derek Justice, your race leader. Brian Mercurio in second. Will Norton in third. Jordy Lopez, don't forget about him. He is still in fourth, trying to hang on. Donovan Strauss is still running up in the 5th position. I believe Omar Diallo and Michael Frisch, they may have too much time to make up to try and chase these drivers down, but it looks like for the most part we got 3 drivers that have a chance to try and bring this thing home if we don't have our second caution flag of the evening.
Don't jinx it now, Blake. Don't jinx it now. But this is the track that the long green flag runs come in, as now all of a sudden Strauss has picked up some extra speed now, as back and forth these two go.
I tell you what, these two have just put on a show, haven't they? Donovan Strauss, Jordy Lopez, that first run, obviously made contact that last time. They're racing each other really tight right now. Lopez is going to give him a little shot in the door as they work it into 3 and 4. Now Strauss crosses over, nearly has to chop off Hagenstein right there. So, they're racing hard, but this might start to move over into something that's not exactly too clean, but we'll have to try to tag team this both. Here comes Derek Justice, and he's getting run down by Brian Mercurio.
Within 2/10 now, can he get a move done is the big question. It's going to take a couple laps for him to try and get the run. And as we've seen, though, it's not been as simple as you get the lead, you run away, like some chances were for today. With the temperatures and the fact that the speeds are only reaching up to 180 miles an hour with the hot temperatures, these drivers have been keeping within range of one another to the leader in this draft by just a little bit, enough to keep it a back and forth.
I have been. Mercurio taking advantage, and you got to think Mercurio has made up about 1.5 seconds here on Justice, but now he has a chance for the race lead. Justice goes low to block, but we've seen this time and time again. That car on the outside, they're going to get a run. Mercurio going to try to get it done on the high side here. What a move! They make contact. Justice up the track. Mercurio able to slingshot on by. Here comes Will Norton, who has a run at Derek Justice.
Justice got really loose and now is getting really aggressive. Really wants to hold on to that bottom line for a chance to attack here, but I think that really more so hurt him more than it helped him.
I can't believe it, but Justice went low to block, but how about the run from the middle line?
Oh.
As now he makes contact with Will Norton off the corner as Norton got loose. I believe that was more Norton coming down than Justice coming up. So perhaps Norton may now have some right side damage or left side damage on that race car as now they work side by side. This is exactly what Brian Mercurio wants to see in his rearview mirror.
And I think both of them do have a bit of damage on the respective cars. Norton to the side panels, Justice to the quarter panel. And that's going to be the tough thing for Justice is it's similar damage I noticed to the back end of Lopez Jr.'s car that can burn up your right rear tire since it...
Norton may be slightly hurt by he and Justice's getting together. But, man, what a drive from Brian Mercurio, who was really just out of nowhere. Again, he gave up about 2 seconds to Derek Justice on the same tire strategy, is able to make it work, save the tires. And, again, with everybody racing as hard as they have been up here, Brian Mercurio just says, as an FTF veteran, thank you very much. I'll work my way by. He's making the sponsors and Kyle Riley very happy in that 62 car right now.
And Dalen Bart's probably going to be happy to see this right now. With 5 laps to go, he leads by half a second. Now the question mark is going to be, can he keep that buffer, or will Norton or Justice have a chance to be able to reel him back in? That's going to be the tough part for those cars behind because of their damage. That's going to affect them down the straightaways.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we'll have to watch the battle behind them, too. Donovan Strauss, Jordi Lopez, Omar Diallo, they are still racing tooth and nail for the 4th position right now. Obviously, Strauss able to get away slightly there from Lopez, but Diallo has been on the march the last couple of laps trying to make his way up there. But this has been a great battle all race long. Donovan Strauss, Jordi Lopez have just been going at it with each other. I believe former teammates at this point, so not sure if there's any love lost or bad blood between those two, but they have made it very interesting to say the least for us up here in the booth tonight.
Yeah, some aggressive racing, and you have to wonder if they didn't make contact there with how aggressive both of them were racing in that situation, how things would have played out with Justice and Mercurio. But now it's the matter of, can they keep themselves inside the top 5 for valuable points? And can drivers like Norton capitalize, and can Mercurio be the driver who can capitalize the most out of all of this, as Justice still is in 3rd position, hasn't been able to close up too much ground to these drivers. If anything, he stayed stationary about 7/10 back.
And Justice hasn't been able to make up ground, but this is really kind of 2 races within itself. Again, many of these drivers running up at the front of the field, they are not running for FTF Grand National Series points. They are running for the Cup Series right now. Brian Mercurio running for Cup Series points. Will Norton doing the same. Derek Justice also is competing on the Cup side of things. Donovan Strauss. So really, I believe the highest running driver here competing for Grand National Series points in this race might very well be Jordan Worth running right now. Back there in about the 9th position. I know we were talking about the differences in these drivers and what they're doing with tire strategy. Worth came down early, but he started to make up a little bit of ground. Michael Frisch looks like he has a little bit of damage. Tyler Gary also came down earlier, but Worth has done a nice job of saving his tires, and he may have a shot at 7th here as he makes a move to the inside of Michael Frisch.
Yeah, Frisch, meanwhile, has seemed to burn up his equipment a little bit here, but with a lap and a half to go, this battle has been interesting, but the battle up front, it may come down to one last chance for Will Norton, because he's closed it up to 3/10 now, Blake. As there's a chance here, he might be able to try and make a dive. He can get close enough down the back straightaway for the final time.
We'll see if he can do it. He was faster than Mercurio that last lap by, and he's got one more opportunity to do it. White flag out in the air. One more trip around the Auto Club Speedway for Brian Mercurio. Long-time FTF veteran here as Will Norton tries his best to try and run him down through 1 and 2. But what a drive there. The 62 Bar Visuals Toyota gets off of the corner, and I don't think that Will Norton is going to have anything for him. Into 3 and 4 for the final time. Mercurio to the bottom, Will Norton as well. But it looks like that 62 can just bring it on steady and bring it on home. Brian Mercurio is going to leapfrog the entire field. He's going to score the win today in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. He brings the Bar Visuals Toyota home in first and wins the Epic Gaming Network 200.
And what a drive and what a run for Mercurio. A nice and quiet run. Kept the car clean. The cleanest out of anybody inside the top 6. And in turn, that's what helped him win this race. Was able to capitalize on everyone else when they were getting too aggressive. He was just keeping it nice and conservative for moves.
He was in the right place at the right time and played it steady until he needed to show his cards. What a job that Brian Mercurio did in this race. Working his way through, leapfrog everybody that was running up there in the top portion of the field to make his way forward when it counted. And boy, what a race that was. I believe we had 4 or 5 different guys that were duking it all out. Jordy Lopez, Donovan Strauss, Derek Justice. There were a ton of names up there battling. A really clean race. 1 caution flag to speak of. Much different outcome than we had at New Smyrna last week. That's for sure. We'll take a look at the results here. Brian Mercurio, your race winner tonight here in the Epic Gaming Network 200. Will Norton brings it home in second. Third goes to Derek Justice. Donovan Strauss brings his Ford home in the 4th position. Omar Diallo finishes up in 5th. Jordy Lopez was scored in 6th. 7th goes to Tyler Gary. Jordan Worth, the highest scoring finisher in Grand National Series points. He brings it home the 8th position. 9th goes to Michael Frisch. Sean Butler, Justin rounds out the top 10.
Walsh finished in 11th, while Aaron Mulrooney Jr. quietly finished in 12th. What a drive for Spencer Preet, meanwhile. He goes up plus 23 on the grid and rounds into 13th position. Brinker goes up plus 10 to 14th, while Jacob Fisher was a contender for the top 10 early on, fell back to 15th for the checkered flag. Toyka finished 16th. David Schildhouse, one of the drivers who elected to start at the back, could claw his way up to 17th, while Will Rogers, who was in contention for the race lead early on after burning up his equipment, dropped to 18th position. Brandon Hawken and Ethan Courtier rounding out the top 20.
21st goes to Andrew Schwartz. Conspignani was in 22nd. 23rd goes to Kevin McAdams. 24th was Jack Painter. 25th was Nate Stewart. 26th was Evan Rice. 27th position goes to Matthew Zwack. 28th, J.D. Willis. 29th was Tyler Dugan. And 30th was Lucas Plosel.
Matt Spalding finished in 31st. The last car on the lead lap was Gary Waterworth, with Nathan Brabideau 1 lap down in 33rd. Hagenstein finished 34th. Poulin, after a strategy call gone awry, finishes 35th. Malillo 36th. Cowden, Horton, DeMerchant, and Clapper round out the top 40. The rest of the drivers were multiple laps down. Margot, Naraki, Williams, and Rush all finish multiple laps down tonight.
Yeah, that strategy for Seth DeMerchant, Jake Poulin, it did not work, staying out and not getting a caution for the rest of the race. So only 1 caution flag to speak of here in 100 laps. A great job by these guys, but a great job here by our race winner, Brian Mercurio. Brian, what a drive it was for you. You saw all that battling in front of you. You guys were side by side, crossing each other over. How were you able to get it done?
Man, honestly, I'm not sure. I know in the first half of the race there, in the first part of that long run, I was just kind of riding around 6th or 7th. Wasn't really feeling the greatest about my tires. I'd kind of come and go, let some guys by, get by some other guys. And then, I don't know, like with maybe 15 or so left before we took our pit stops there, tires just came in and I just started charging up through the field, got right behind Jordy before we pit there. He pulled a little bit on me there. But then I think him racing super hard with Donnie up front kind of killed his stuff and let Norton and I catch up. And yeah, thankfully I just had the track position over Norton the whole time. And, he closed the gap there at the end, but just couldn't quite get to me. So glad I was able to hold him off.
Well, how was it to manage, obviously, very, very hot track conditions? I mean, it was 93 ambient out there, 107 track temperature. How was it out there, and how much different was it than, say the Pro Series race here, where it was much cooler temperatures? How was it trying to manage those temperatures, and did that kind of help? We saw some moves on the outside. That's how you passed Derek Justice for the lead. You kind of think that slicker, hotter temperature was kind of the reason for that?
Definitely could be. I kind of had to learn how other people were driving it here. A lot of times with this tire, you kind of want to take a shallower entry and kind of plan it on the bottom through the corner. But I think with just the long straightaways here, you kind of had to back up the entry a ton and then set yourself up to get a good run off the corner. So I kind of had to figure out what everyone else was doing. And yeah, once I was able to kind of figure that out, cooled my tires down a little bit more, started moving up through the field. Did get a little loose. You had to manage the rears for sure. But once I was able to kind of figure that out, I felt super comfortable with it. Really just about not burning your stuff up, especially after the pit stops there, trying to get through traffic.
Well, Brian, great job here tonight. Obviously, you get the victory, not competing for points, but I'll throw you one more question. Obviously, big, tall task to run this track, but obviously with the car tomorrow, first time we're using that package this season, how are you looking forward to that? Not only after running tonight, but running some of the car of tomorrow earlier this week with the Car Anomaly 500 going on. You looking forward to running that race car?
Definitely. I ran Brian Blackford's Hard to Drive race late last year. Running that in 130, 140 track temp at Atlanta is quite the handful, and I don't expect it to be like that, but that car is still difficult to drive. 2-mile track like this, it's gonna kind of be not necessarily exactly the same, but I would say kind of similar to tonight, where really it's just, you got to manage your pace the whole time. It's super easy. You want to push, you want to just, mat it coming out of the corners, but really just got to hold yourself back and let everybody come to you. Keep your tires cool. You got however much horsepower, 850, 900 horsepower in the COTs. So going to be really important to save the rears tomorrow. Kind of excited for it. I feel like Auto Club's always been one of my best tracks dating back to my under 2003 days. So finally able to win here. Feels good to get a good result in this paint scheme after what happened to me in the Pro Series late last year. So good redemption at Auto Club. Obviously, it doesn't replace getting a good finish in the Pro Series, but knowing I got a win here and a series that's still super competitive. It's not the Cup Series, but there's still a lot of really talented guys in this field, and to be able to win over them, just it feels great.
All right, Brian. Well, we'll go ahead and let you go. Congratulations, and we'll let you enjoy your victory. We'll hope to talk to you a little bit more tomorrow.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, Brian Mercurio, he takes down the win. Will Norton, a late charge, comes up just short. He's caught up with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. First things first, Will, how are you feeling about the second place run tonight? You were in contention for much of this race for the victory, and what was a thrilling finish?
It feels pretty good overall. A little disappointed I came up just that close. So there was about 2 or 3 tenths I needed to get, so just a few more laps, and I could have had a run at them. But overall, yeah, it was a good time. Always good when a race goes green.
Course had some aggressive battling between the rest of the pack. How would you say the racing was tonight, and what looked to be a thrilling race, at least from our viewpoint?
Well, for us, it was a lot of give and take. It was a lot of tire saving, because I guess Auto Club and the 2-mile tracks, it's a lot better when you save your tires more, because it really hurts you long run if you can't get enough of a lead. So really just a lot of give and take.
Indeed here, and of course, I want to get your take on the high temperatures for today. A very hot air temp as well as track temp. How much of a factor was the weather conditions and how you approach this race? We ended at 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temp, but the air temp was 93 consistently throughout the day.
Having a higher temperature, it certainly helps with the tire degradation. Getting my words mixed up. It certainly helps with that, which puts your inputs at a higher priority, which it really helps make the race more dynamic, and you see a lot of people falling back, coming forward. So it's nice when these races have hotter temps because it means your driving matters more.
Now, of course, today was a big and tough race, but the next race on the campaign for the Grand National side of things, I believe, heads its way over to what's expected to be some interesting racing. Your thoughts on the upcoming schedule for you and the next couple races in FTF action?
I'm really looking forward to Five Flags. That's on my top for GNS. At least that's on my top priority for races I do. I want to say that's the next race. It might not be, but I think it is. I raced that in B Fixed first week of the season and had a good time doing that. Of course, I got wrecked a lot, but it's still a good time when the races went green. So hope for some good racing in that. And then looking forward to the first COT race at Auto Club tomorrow.
It's going to be a tricky one, absolutely. How do you feel you're going to be in the CLT?
I did the practice race last night. I was holding with the guys for a bit, and then I hit the wall. The things are a lot more skewed out in the rear than than I expected. So I ended up knocking the wall down about 15 laps in. But I feel like my pace will be all right. Just got to see how it goes with a longer run because the practice races were just a little bit shorter.
Well, congratulations tonight on the run, Will. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Will Norton coming home in second tonight, Blake.
Norton brings it home in second, and another driver who was in contention for the win late. Derek Justice catches up with us, and Derek, it looks like obviously you come off pit road, great strategy. You had the fresh tires. What more did you think you need there to try and hold up Ryan Mercurio?
Another lap on the older tires. I pushed it pretty hard coming out of pit road, try to keep up with Jordy because I knew Jordy had a lap fresher tires. So I was trying to maintain my pace off him and kind of burn the rears off a little bit. But hey, I did fit in the best I could. Get props to Mercurio, passed me on the outside, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like I was going to qualify for this race, but I had some technical difficulties, so I had to start in the back there. But that was a blast driving for 35th. That was a lot of fun.
I was about to say you work your way through the whole field. How much fun was it? Especially again, we talked about the slick conditions. I think with all that kind of sliding around, that may play into your favor a little bit.
It just I don't know. It just set a good pace on how hard I can push the tires without burning them up on that first run. But when you don't have anybody in front of you, it's kind of hard to set your pace when you don't have a car to reference to. So if I would have known that Donnie and Jordy was going to battle that hard, I probably would have saved a little bit more and probably had a better chance of winning. But hey, Brian and Will did an awesome job. Racing up there, and me and Will were battling hard there, I see, and we made contact, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, Derek, I'll throw you the mic one more time. Anybody want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, shout out to I'm going to shout out to JTG Racing, for picking me up for Coke Series, but they allow me to run anything I want for this series, which is awesome of them. So shout out to them first. Of course, all the Twitch viewers watching today, Baskin Robbins, Butt Kicker, and No Shorts Racing. I appreciate everybody.
All right, that's Derek Justice. He brings it home in third, and Justin, I think we're about to wrap this thing up. But man, just what a race this was. I mean, we had all the battling for the lead that we could want, really.
Absolutely. Some great strategy calls, some great racing, some long green flag runs. There's a reason this is a fan favorite racetrack with some of the action that can take place here and some of the strategy that can take place, as well as it being such a driver's track where you have to be able to save the tires, and which led to so many comers and goers, especially early on in this race. But in the end, the drivers who are the calmest and were able to think properly and be able to make the best moves at the right times and capitalize on those making some over-aggressive moves are the ones who have the best runs overall today. What a drive, though, for Mercurio, Norton, and Justice to close out the top three. Just an incredible race overall.
Really did a nice job of that. So as we look forward here in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals, a couple of FTF races coming up for you very soon. Of course, this Friday night, the Super Speedway Series gets kicked off Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on STN. And then, of course, next Saturday night, we'll be bringing you more live flag-to-flag coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. And, of course, the FTF Cup Series will be competing tomorrow night. You can catch that on Bottom Split. So for my broadcast partner, Justin Prince, and our friend down in the virtual production trailer, Zach Johnston, I'm Blake McCandless, saying so long from the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California, where we build. Farewell and congratulations to our race winner tonight in Brian Mercurio. Until we see you again next time.